In the quaint town of Ravenswood, nestled between towering pine trees and mist-covered hills, stood an old mansion with a history as mysterious as the fog that enshrouded it. The locals whispered of dark secrets and unspeakable tragedies that had befallen those who dared to call it home. Yet, for the Mitchell family, the allure of a fresh start proved too tempting to resist. Thomas Mitchell, a weary businessman seeking refuge from the chaos of the city, decided to purchase the imposing mansion, convinced that the move would breathe new life into his fractured family. The Victorian structure loomed like a silent sentinel, its windows reflecting the ghostly moonlight that bathed the grounds. Unbeknownst to the Mitchells, the walls held memories that refused to be forgotten. As they crossed the threshold of their new home, a chill swept through the air, sending shivers down their spines. Emma, the youngest of the Mitchells, felt a strange presence that seemed to watch her from the shadows. Ignoring her unease, the family tried to settle into their new surroundings, but the house seemed to resist their intrusion. The first night descended, cloaking Ravenswood in an otherworldly stillness. The Mitchells gathered in the dimly lit dining room, the creaking floorboards beneath them echoing like distant whispers. A draft whispered through the hallways, carrying with it an icy breath that seemed to extinguish the warmth in their hearts. Thomas, determined to forge a sense of normalcy, lit a fire in the grand fireplace. As the flames danced, shadows twisted and contorted, casting eerie shapes across the walls. The family exchanged uneasy glances, but their unease was dismissed as mere jitters. Little did they know, the house was preparing to unveil its darkest secrets. That night, as the family slept, the mansion came alive with unseen forces. Whispers echoed through the corridors, and the air itself seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. Emma awoke to the sound of footsteps echoing through the halls. She followed the haunting cadence, her small footsteps barely audible against the ancient floorboards. The corridor stretched endlessly, the walls closing in around her like a suffocating embrace. She turned a corner and stumbled upon a forgotten room, its door slightly ajar. The room exuded a palpable malevolence, its atmosphere heavy with the weight of the past. Hesitant but driven by an unexplainable force, Emma pushed open the door. To her horror, the room was a shrine of forgotten memories. Faded photographs adorned the walls, capturing the anguished faces of a family that had once called this mansion home. Emma recognized the faces, the long-lost inhabitants who had succumbed to the sinister forces that lingered within. As she gazed upon the photographs, the room seemed to come alive with ghostly apparitions. Shadows danced on the walls, and the anguished whispers of the past reverberated in her ears. The family's tragic history unfolded before her eyes, a tale of betrayal, despair, and a darkness that hungered for more. The following days blurred into a nightmarish symphony of unexplained phenomena. Objects moved on their own, disembodied voices echoed through the halls, and the air became thick with an oppressive energy. Thomas, ever the skeptic, struggled to rationalize the escalating horrors befalling his family. In a desperate attempt to bring an end to the torment, Thomas delved into the mansion's history, uncovering a sordid tale of a family torn apart by greed and betrayal. The patriarch, driven mad by a thirst for power, had unleashed dark forces that consumed them all. The mansion, tainted by the blood of the past, hungered for new souls to claim as its own. As Thomas confronted the sinister truth, the mansion retaliated with a fury that defied explanation. Rooms transformed into nightmarish landscapes, and the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred. The once grand mansion became a malevolent entity, its corridors twisting into maddening labyrinths that ensnared the Mitchell family in a web of terror. Each family member faced their own personal hell within the mansion's grasp. Emma, tormented by spectral children who beckoned her to join their eternal play, wandered through ethereal realms that defied logic. Thomas, haunted by the anguished cries of the past, descended into madness as he grappled with the malevolent force that sought to claim his soul. In the end, the Mitchell family became tragic victims of the new home they had so eagerly embraced. The mansion, now a cursed monument to the sins of the past, stood as a silent testament to the darkness that lurked within its walls. Ravenswood, forever shrouded in mist, whispered the tale of a family that dared to defy the boundaries between the living and the dead, a cautionary tale that echoed through the ages. In the heart of the quiet town of Hollow Creek, a modest family decided to start anew by moving into an old farmhouse on the outskirts. The Johnsons, consisting of James, Sarah, and their 2 children, Emily and Michael, were lured by the promise of a peaceful life away from the chaos of the city. Little did they know that their new home harbored a chilling secret. The farmhouse, weathered by time, stood against a backdrop of rolling hills and dense woods that seemed to stretch on forever. As the Johnsons settled in, the walls seemed to absorb their laughter, creating an atmosphere that resonated with a quiet melancholy. Unbeknownst to the family, the farmhouse held the memories of a tragedy that had unfolded decades ago. On the first night, a haunting wind whispered through the creaking timbers, carrying with it the echoes of long-forgotten voices. The Johnsons gathered around the dinner table, the flickering candlelight casting elongated shadows that danced on the walls. The air inside the farmhouse felt heavy, as if it held the weight of a lingering sorrow. As the family slept, the farmhouse awakened. The floorboards groaned under the invisible footsteps of spectral inhabitants. James woke to the distant sound of a mournful melody, a ghostly piano playing in the dead of night. He followed the haunting notes, drawn to the music that seemed to seep from the very walls of the farmhouse. The source of the melody revealed itself in a dimly lit room, tucked away in a corner of the house. An old piano, untouched for years, played itself with an otherworldly grace. The room was adorned with faded photographs of a family that once reveled in the joy of music. The Johnsons, spellbound by the ethereal performance, felt a connection to the long-lost souls that had once inhabited the farmhouse. As the days passed, the Johnsons' lives became entwined with the spirits that lingered within the farmhouse. Sarah, a talented artist, found herself compelled to paint portraits of the spectral figures she glimpsed in the corners of her vision. Emily and Michael, initially frightened by the mysterious occurrences, soon formed bonds with the ghostly children who played in the overgrown yard. However, the benevolent facade of the spirits soon gave way to a more malevolent force. Shadows slithered through the corridors, and whispers turned into anguished cries that reverberated through the halls. The once idyllic farmhouse became a battleground between the living and the dead, a place where the past sought to reclaim what had been lost. One fateful night, the Johnsons were drawn to the attic, a space they had avoided until then. The air grew colder as they ascended the creaking stairs, and the flickering candlelight barely illuminated the desolate space. In the center of the attic stood an antique mirror, its surface reflecting the twisted visages of tortured souls. As the family stared into the abyss within the mirror, the farmhouse unleashed its darkest secret. The spirits, once confined to the shadows, materialized in a spectral symphony of despair. The Johnsons, paralyzed by the malevolent force, watched as the spirits reenacted the tragedy that had claimed their lives decades ago. In the midst of the spectral performance, the farmhouse seemed to absorb the anguish like a malevolent sponge, growing stronger with each tortured soul it claimed. The Johnsons, caught in the grip of the paranormal maelstrom, realized that their new home was a vessel for the unresolved sorrows of the past. In a desperate bid to break free from the spectral entanglement, the family sought the help of a local historian. As the historian delved into the farmhouse's dark history, he uncovered a tale of betrayal, lost love, and a cursed pact that bound the spirits to the earthly realm. The only way to free the Johnsons and the tortured souls within the farmhouse was to confront the malevolent force head-on. Armed with the knowledge of the past, the Johnsons faced the haunted echoes of the farmhouse in a climactic showdown. The spirits, trapped in a cycle of despair, lashed out with a fury that tested the family's resolve. With a combination of courage and empathy, the Johnsons shattered the shackles that bound the spirits, releasing them from their eternal torment. As the first rays of dawn broke over Hollow Creek, the farmhouse stood silent, its haunted history laid to rest. The Johnsons, forever changed by their ordeal, embraced the promise of a new beginning. The once ghostly atmosphere lifted, replaced by the serenity the family had initially sought. The farmhouse, now free from the shadows of the past, stood as a testament to the resilience of the living and the power of redemption. Hollow Creek, though forever marked by the events that transpired within the farmhouse, returned to its quiet existence, its secrets buried beneath the layers of time. The Johnsons, scarred but wiser, left behind the haunted farmhouse, carrying with them a newfound appreciation for the fragility of life and the enduring strength of the human spirit. In the heart of the small coastal town of Black Harbor, a charming cottage stood overlooking the restless waves of the sea. The Carmichael family, consisting of Samuel, Amelia, and their teenage daughter, Lily, had recently moved to the town in search of a fresh start. The cottage, nestled between towering cliffs and surrounded by an air of mystery, seemed like the perfect sanctuary. However, the tranquil facade hid a dark secret that would unravel the very fabric of the Carmichaels' reality. The cottage, weathered by sea winds and time, had once belonged to the enigmatic Rosemary Blackwood, a woman shrouded in local legend. Whispers of her involvement in the occult and a tragic love affair lingered among the townsfolk. Ignoring the warnings, the Carmichaels embraced their new home with hope and optimism. On the first night, as the family gathered around a crackling fireplace, a soft melody floated through the air. The haunting notes seemed to emanate from an old music box that sat on a dusty shelf, untouched for years. Intrigued, Lily opened the ornate box, unleashing a spectral tune that echoed through the cottage. Unbeknownst to the Carmichaels, the music box was a conduit to a realm beyond the living. As the melody played, the boundaries between the worlds blurred, allowing the ethereal presence of Rosemary Blackwood to seep into their reality. Samuel dismissed the strange occurrences as mere quirks of an old house, but Lily became increasingly fascinated by the unseen force that seemed to dance around them. Each night, the cottage transformed into a realm of spectral beauty. Ghostly apparitions of Rosemary Blackwood and her ill-fated lover materialized, waltzing through the moonlit rooms in a tragic ballet of love and loss. Lily, drawn into the supernatural dance, found herself entangled in a forbidden romance that transcended the boundaries of life and death. As the days passed, the line between the living and the dead became increasingly blurred. The sea outside the cottage echoed with ghostly whispers, and the walls resonated with the heartbeat of a love that refused to be forgotten. The townsfolk, aware of the Carmichaels' plight, warned them of the cursed legacy that haunted Black Harbor for generations. Amelia, torn between the safety of her family and the allure of the supernatural, delved into the town's archives to uncover the truth about Rosemary Blackwood. Her research revealed a tale of forbidden love, betrayal, and a pact with the otherworldly forces that governed the sea. Rosemary, desperate to reunite with her lost love, had bound her spirit to the cottage, forever trapped in a purgatorial dance. As the Carmichaels grappled with the truth, the cottage's influence intensified. Objects moved of their own accord, shadows whispered secrets of the past, and Lily found herself torn between the tangible world and the ephemeral embrace of the supernatural. The once charming cottage became a battleground for the Carmichael souls, as Rosemary's spectral presence sought to claim them for an eternity of spectral companionship. In a desperate attempt to break free from the supernatural entanglement, Amelia sought the guidance of a reclusive occultist known as the Seer of Black Harbor. The old woman, her eyes clouded by the wisdom of ages, revealed a chilling prophecy that foretold the family's fate. To sever the ties with Rosemary Blackwood, the Carmichaels had to confront the ghosts of the past and rewrite the tragic love story that bound them. Embracing the occultist's guidance, the family conducted a ritual in the heart of the cottage. The music box played the haunting melody once more, but this time, the Carmichaels danced not with the ghosts of the past, but with the spirits of redemption. Through a mystical convergence of love and sacrifice, the family rewove the threads of fate that bound Rosemary to the cottage. As the last notes of the melody faded, the supernatural presence lifted. The sea outside the cottage, once turbulent with spectral whispers, calmed to a gentle rhythm. The cottage, no longer a vessel of sorrow, stood silent against the backdrop of a moonlit black harbor. The Carmichaels, forever changed by their otherworldly ordeal, left the coastal town behind. The cottage, stripped of its haunted legacy, awaited the next inhabitants, its history buried beneath the sands of time. Black Harbor, a town steeped in the mysteries of the sea, returned to its quiet existence, its secrets guarded by the waves that whispered tales of love, loss, and the thin veil that separates the living from the dead.